Welcome to Humphrey Coliseum here. Robbie Faulk with 247 Sports and the Starkville Daily News with a little bit of Talkin Dawgs here from the Hump, fresh off of Mississippi State's 70-63 win over Vanderbilt, and it was another gutsy performance for the women's basketball team that we saw here at the Hump. Mississippi State had 8 players that were available against Alabama, and one of those unavailable was Rickea Jackson, who leads the SEC in scoring with over 20 points a ball game. Rickea out. Ashley Jones, a player that can come in, knock down some shots, and play some good defense off the bench. She was out of the ball game as well. And then, of course, you have a couple of injuries for Mississippi State and what's already a pretty short bench. They go to Alabama. They win that ball game in impressive fashion. To just kind of gut through that game was a big deal for Mississippi State. They come to this game today here back at the Hump on Sunday and had even less players. Raven Farley, a backup center, was out today along with Ashley Jones and Rickea Jackson, and that was a huge shot to Mississippi State. Raven Farley has not put up huge numbers this year off the bench, but it's an extra body that you have that can come in and that you feel can kind of maintain things while Danae Carter's out of the game. Danae Carter's already undersized against most SEC centers, but for a freshman to be 6 foot, to do what she's doing, to play as hard as she is, she just really gives Mississippi State a lift and is one of the better rebounds, if not the best rebounder on the team. So you're playing with an even shorter bench this week, and Charlotte Cole, I think, played a couple of minutes. So really you only played with 6 players today for Mississippi State, and they found a way again, 70-63. They beat Vanderbilt, and just a gutsy win for Mississippi State. There was, I would venture to say, probably 4,500, maybe close to 5,000 fans here in Starkville. It wasn't a huge crowd, but it was a very vocal crowd because I think Mississippi State fans just love to see a team that comes out and plays hard and plays defense, and that's what Mississippi State did for the most part for 4 quarters. They played their butts off. They weren't just incredible on the offensive side of the ball. And Anastasia Hayes really carried this team today with 31 points. But what State did for 4 quarters was defend. They held Vanderbilt scoreless for over 6 minutes in the second quarter and allowed themselves to get back in that ball game and eventually take the lead. They had a 1-point lead going into the half. They trailed by 1 point going into the third quarter. And the fourth quarter, I thought, was just incredible. They scored nearly more points in that fourth quarter than they did the entire first half combined. 25-point fourth quarter, really came off the hinges of Katarion Thompson coming off the bench. Team was kind of needing a spark there. She knocks down a big 3-point shot, gets some big defensive plays out there, hits some big free throws late in the fourth quarter. State went on a 14-0 run to go from down 3 points to winning the ball game by double digits. And they eventually hold on late in the game as Danae Carter fouled out in the final 2.5 minutes. They found a way to hold on there with a smaller lineup and just got a huge win. Now 2-1 in conference play. I think that's huge considering the circumstances. You got Rickea Jackson out, and you get a very short bench, a very inexperienced team as far as playing together, and a coach in Doug Novak who had no idea he was going to be coaching this team until just a couple of weeks or 3 or 4 weeks before the season began. So such an impressive job from Mississippi State already this year. They went to South Carolina, their only SEC loss so far, lost that ball game by 12, but just played really hard in that game as well. And for that to be your only loss so far, I mean, you see South Carolina today, they beat Kentucky, a top 25 team, by 20 points. And they do have the loss to Missouri, but that's a team that has beaten 5 or 6 teams ranked inside the top 10, I think, already this year. So South Carolina is really impressive. For Mississippi State to do what they did, I think just speaks volumes of where this team is right now. And now having that South Carolina game out of the way and feeling like you should be getting some reinforcements back here shortly if Rickea Jackson and Ashley Jones can come back within the next week, you have to feel really good about the direction of this team right now. And you still have to get through this season where COVID is just dominating right now in the protocols and keeping players off the floor, but you got to feel good about the direction of this team. And I think that's directly pushed Doug Novak into the spotlight here for Mississippi State, and it has fans questioning whether or not he could be the guy to take over this program. And I think he's definitely starting to earn that. I think you have to take into account that he needs to play a full SEC schedule, and you need to look at the full body of work. If you're John Cohen, you got to hear his pitch for the program and kind of what he wants to do for this program. But I think there's no doubt about it that he has earned the right to at least get an interview from Mississippi State and to be a major candidate for the Bulldogs moving forward, because there is no doubt that this team is playing its best it's played in over a year. And when you think about the fact that they have that short bench, they have all these new faces in here, they have their best player out of the ball game right now in the last 2 games, and they're still able to win ball games here and do it in such a gritty fashion in a way that this fan base has really come to love over the years when Vic Schaefer was the coach here. And the team was always built around toughness. It was always built around defense. That's what puts people in these seats back here. And I think you're going to see, especially if Mississippi State can go through this week and win 1 or 2 against Kentucky and Ole Miss, I think you're going to start seeing this place fill up a little bit more and what we're used to seeing at Mississippi State from these women's basketball crowds over the years. So really impressive job by the Bulldogs to find a way to get through this and get to 11-4 on the season, 2-1 in SEC play. And now you're starting to build some momentum here. You go from a team that you're just wanting to kind of keep your head above water and hand it off to the next coach. Well, now you want to start playing for some things here. Mississippi State wants to get to the NCAA tournament, and this team can get there if they keep stacking wins like this. And, I think that the SEC is strong, especially in the top half. But I think there's a lot of winnable games for Mississippi State down the stretch. So they need to continue this momentum here, keep everybody healthy, keep everybody locked in and pushing forward, because right now they're playing some great basketball with a limited roster. So totally impressed with what Doug Novak's doing right now. He and Eddie Benton have been the only coaches on the bench, along with Director of Operations Ashley Morse. They've been the only coaches on the bench. They've been missing 2 of their assistants. And one of their better scout guys has been out as well on the bench for the Bulldogs. So hopefully everybody can get back and this team can get the full health, and we can really see the full scope of what this team could be, because I think this team could be seriously impressive with everybody on the same page and everybody playing hard. I mean, you're taking 20 points away right now from Rakia Jackson. That's a lot of points that's off the board for the Bulldogs. You add her into the mix the last 2 games, and what would State have done? So I think it's really impressive so far what they've done. Now on the men's side of things, it's been completely different the last 24 hours for Mississippi State fans with the men. There's just this back and forth that's going on with this men's basketball program for the Bulldogs, and they just cannot grab this fan base, and they can't get a hold of things and trying to control their own destiny and things of that nature. And it always seems to kind of center around this Ole Miss rivalry with Mississippi State. The first game that Mississippi State plays against Ole Miss every single year turns out the way that it did on Saturday night every time. The only time that it didn't was Ben Howland's first game against Ole Miss when he arrived in Starkville when they won that ball game. They have now lost the first game in this season series with Ole Miss 5 straight times. 5 years in a row they've lost this first game. So he's 1-6 now in the first game against Ole Miss. And then you turn around, he's 4-2 in the second game. But Mississippi State has to win this kind of ball game. Mississippi State is a more talented team. They were deeper. They are supposed to be better than Ole Miss this year. But the Rebels came out and played spirited basketball. They played harder than Mississippi State. And they had another guy that went off that nobody was expecting to go off. And that's something that's happened for Mississippi State many times over the years. They've had a guy, they've let a guy just absolutely explode against them. And this guy went off for, I think, 20-plus points, had 6 3-pointers or something like that. So it was just kind of a disaster the first half, and then the lead grew out in the second half to 20 points. State was able to get back in, and I think they got it to 7, but they couldn't get over the hump, and they lose the ball game. And these are games that Mississippi State has got to win. They have to get to the NCAA tournament this year under Ben Howland. They got to get to that big dance, something that's really eluded them except for 1 year under Ben Howland, and this is it. This is the year that he's got to do it. He's got the roster. He's got the depth. He's got some experience on this team to do it, and they just can't seem to put things together consistently here. Now, Tolu Smith was a big piece missing for Mississippi State, like Rakia Jackson was for the Bulldogs. Tolu Smith's been out the last couple of days. They're hoping to get him back to practice on Monday, and he's been in and out of the lineup all year. He's had a couple of different injuries. Now he's having to sit out for this ball game. State needs him back. State needs to get everybody in a cohesive unit to move forward. I don't think the season's over for the Bulldogs. A lot of people ready to mail it in, but so I just think this is just a bump in the road if they're able to get over that bump. There's still plenty of chances ahead for Mississippi State. They're still in tournament projections by some people, and there's a long SEC schedule ahead. State has got to win games, though. You got to start stacking wins. I think they got Georgia coming up this week, and they also have Alabama, who stumbled against Missouri, and it shows you how hard it is to win in this league consistently, especially to go on the road and do it. Missouri's not a good ball club. Alabama's a top 25 team, and they went on the road and stumbled. So it's not the end of the world for Mississippi State, but the Bulldogs have got to find a way to stack wins and consistently win ball games, and they got to get this fan base on board at some point. I mean, they can't play in the half-empty arena. This fan base has got to get around this team, and to do that, they got to win ball games. So, we'll see what happens this week for them. Like I said, they play Georgia and Alabama, I believe, this week. The women play at Kentucky and at Ole Miss. And they're playing 4 of the first 5 games have been on the road, and State has a chance here to start off really well. But these are going to be tough ball games. Kentucky has one of the best players in the country in Ryan Howard. Ole Miss is a much improved team that is fighting for an NCAA tournament this year. They just had 13 straight wins end on Sunday with a loss to Tennessee, but that's a team that's playing really well, and they're trying to end a long streak against Mississippi State that's gone, I think, five years or more against the Bulldogs. So Ole Miss is trying to end a streak. Mississippi State's trying to keep some momentum going, and we'll see if they're able to add some pieces to the lineup this week that they haven't had. I think it's key for Mississippi State to get Rakia Jackson back into the mix. I don't know if it's sustainable to have a 7-player or 8-player team consistently. You're going to get in foul trouble. You can't really bank on that, but I think it's good to see Mississippi State shorthanded like this, finding ways to win. You can always improve on that, and I think that's huge for the Bulldogs to do that. Thanks for tuning in again. Please go subscribe to this YouTube channel. We got tons of good stuff coming out on here. I have reactions like this. We have our Talkin Dawgs segment. We have a post-game reaction. We have some live chats. I'm going to get that started back up at some point. And, of course, every press conference that I cover, I try to put on there so you can go look at videos. When you subscribe, you get notified that we've got those videos going up, and you have a chance to see those when they go out. So make sure you're subscribing to this. Share this channel, too. I appreciate you guys for watching this YouTube channel. You've really given this a boost over the last couple of months or so, and I really appreciate you guys for that. And also, don't forget to go check us out at MississippiState.247sports.com. Subscribe if you aren't already. Please come join our message board. We have a great collection of posters, guys that are knowledgeable on the game, that have some good information, guys that have the inside track on some information that maybe we might not have. We just have a great group of posters. I want you guys to come join us and check that out and join in on the conversation. We have never been bigger and more vibrant than we are right now over at 247, and we have, in my opinion, the greatest group of Mississippi State reporters that possibly this university's ever had, from just experience, from knowledge to inside information, and just the whole total collection. We have a great group right now. So come check us out and let us know what you think about that. But other than that, I really appreciate you guys, and we'll be checking back in at some point soon. But we got some great information coming to our website, and go check out what we got post-game from the game today. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you around next week.